Ohayo Questa! Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the 10 steps to become a student here in Japan. So let's get right into it. So welcome back to Ohayo Quest. My name is Senna and I have a YouTube channel called The Hazina Girl, and today I wanted to give you guys my personal tips on how to become a student here in Japan. I've actually been a student for 4 years now here in Japan. I spent 2 years as a Japanese language student and then another 2 years as a fashion student here. So here are the tips that I have for you guys, and here's a little bit of what I've learned being a student here in Japan. Alright, so step number 1 is to pick a school. Now when you're picking a school, there's one thing you have to keep in mind, and that is the location. So do you want to go to a school in a neighborhood that's kind of busy, or do you prefer somewhere that's a little bit more quiet? Or do you want to live in Tokyo? Do you not want to live in Tokyo? These are all things that are going to depend on the school that you pick, so make sure you pick wisely. Okay, so in my case, when I was picking my Japanese language school, I knew that I actually really wanted to live in a neighborhood that maybe had something related to fashion. So I ended up picking a school that was in Nippori, which is really famous for textiles. And so I always got the chance after school to pass by some stores and to kind of check out some really cool places, and I absolutely loved living there. Alright, so step number 2 is to pick your course. Now when you're picking your course, you'll probably notice that there's tons of different options, and I would say the best thing to do is just to ask people and try to find out. The best people to ask are probably the people from your school. You can ask, maybe if you're in contact with somebody by email, you can just ask them, hey, I'm interested in this course, could you tell me a bit more about it? And then hopefully they'll give you some information. So in my case, when I was trying to pick a course at my current school, Bunka Fashion College, I actually had a really good friend of mine who was already studying there, and I just asked her, hey, what was it like to study at the course that you're taking? And she gave me all the tips, she gave me a bunch of information, and that's what ultimately led me to deciding to take the course that I'm taking now. Okay, so now that you've picked your school and you've picked what course you want to take, the next thing to think about is where you want to live. So there's tons of different housing options. You can live in a share house, in an apartment, or you can even live in maybe the school dorm that your school has. But one thing that you definitely have to think about is how much you'll be paying in rent. Of course, if you want to live in an apartment, it might cost you a little bit more, but if you want to live on campus, it might be a little bit cheaper, but you might have to share with somebody. So yeah, you just have to think about where you want to live. In my case, I actually started off living on the dorm of my Japanese language school, and that was a great opportunity for me to just make friends, to talk to new people, and it was super cheap, which was really convenient. And then after that, once I got a bit more money and I got my own job and I was feeling a little bit more stable in Japan, then I was able to move into an apartment that I was sharing with a couple of my friends. So it's a really great option, I think, to start off with the dorms and then to transition into something else. So the next step, once you've decided where you want to live, you've decided the school you want to go to, and the course you want to take, the next step is going to be to actually apply for the course. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe you're panicking a little bit and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to apply just yet, but it's okay to just do it, because most of the times they're just going to ask you basic information like your name, where you're from, what it is that you're currently doing, and then once you've given them that information, you can actually go on and do the next step, which is to apply for a visa. Now, applying for a visa depends on a lot of different things, and mostly it depends on your country of origin. So it's hard to get information just from doing research online, and that's why it's a great idea to just apply through your school. And most of the times, your school is actually going to give you lots of tips and a lot of help so that you can actually find out what the process is for getting your visa. The first step was really easy. I just gave them my personal information, who I was, and then the next step was basically just my school helping me through the whole visa application process. So they told me everything I needed to know as a Canadian, what it is that I needed to do, what kind of paperwork I needed to hand in. Most of the times you need documents from your school, things like, if you went to high school, they need your transcript, or, if you're working, just like proof of, your work. Thanks to my school, I was able to actually go through it really smoothly. So once you've actually applied for your visa and you've applied for the course as well, the next thing your school is going to give you is a certificate of eligibility, also known as a COE. And this is basically a document that's going to prove that you are eligible to study in Japan. And it takes a while to come in. Most of the times you have to wait about 6 months just to receive it. So make sure that when you're applying, you're giving yourself a lot of time before your actual course starts. Now, one thing I actually really suggest you guys do is within this time that you're waiting for your certificate of eligibility, you should be saving up every single penny. And I'm talking about every single penny, because living in Japan is really expensive. So you're gonna wanna make sure to just, if you can work part-time, if you can, ask your parents for money, if you can find out how much your tuition costs as well, it's a great time for you to really think about how much it's gonna cost to live in Japan, and just to think about how much money you're going to be spending when you're gonna be living here. Okay, so one thing you're gonna have to do for sure as a student living here in Japan is you're going to be paying tuition. So make sure you do some research, make sure you find out how much your course is going to cost, make sure you find out how you're going to be sending money. If you're going to be getting money from your parents from abroad, then make sure you find out the process for wire transfer, and also look into your school's scholarships. If there are scholarships, that you can apply for as a foreign student, make sure you look into them, apply for them in advance, and give yourself as much time as possible to really sort out your money situation as well. Alright, and now the next step, which is actually my personal favorite, is to buy your ticket to come to Japan. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind when you're buying your ticket is make sure you give yourself a little bit of time to adjust and to really get used to your life here in Japan before starting school. If you buy your ticket too early, you might not get a chance to get used to jet lag and to really just adjust to your new life here in Japan. Now, in my case, I actually gave myself a lot of time. I think I bought my ticket like 2 weeks in advance, and those 2 weeks were crucial to allow me to really just get used to my new life. I was able to explore a little bit of Japan and just like get around town a little bit, get used to the train system, and it really saved my life. So I highly recommend you do the same. Alright, and now that you have bought your ticket, the next step is to come to Japan. Now make sure that when you come to Japan that you know what you're doing. Make sure that you don't arrive and you just kind of, throw yourself all over the place, and I'm sure you'll be excited, but you have to know that there are certain things that you're allowed to do and some things that you're not really allowed to do when you're here. And if you're curious to actually know specifically what things not to do when coming to Japan, make sure you check out the video, which will be linked right over here. There's actually already an Ohio Quest video that talks about things that you shouldn't do when you come to Japan, so make sure you check out that video. It's going to be linked right there. So now that you've settled here in Japan, the next step is to get your resident card and your student card. Now, it's going to depend on the school that you're going to. Some schools will help you with the whole process, but if they don't, then one thing you're going to have to do is go to the ward office. Now, the ward office might be a little bit difficult because sometimes they don't have any paperwork in English, or maybe they'll have a hard time helping you out in English. So make sure that you try to bring a friend with you who understands Japanese, or that you ask maybe somebody at your school to help you out. In my case, I didn't actually have to go to the ward office. My school helped me with the whole process, but make sure that you ask your school and find out what it is that they do for, resident card and student card application process. Alright, well, I guess that's it. But actually not quite. There's one last step, which is step number 10, and that is to go to school. I personally love my life here in Japan. I love being a student, and I hope you guys do too. And I hope you found all the tips we've given you guys really helpful. And yeah, I guess that's it for me. My name is Senna, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm off. So I'll see you guys later.